is CEO and co-founder of GloCoach, sebuah platform yang mengembangkan AI to deliver human-centric talent development solutions. Previously, beliau adalah aerospace engineer consultant untuk NASA, berkontribusi dalam misi interplanetary seperti Mars Pathfinders. Welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Rob Abanet. Yang akan memandu diskusi kita adalah moderator Master Coach Nurleli Susutyo, PCC CNC MPN. Coach Nurleli adalah Managing Director of PT Quality Resources, a coach consultant firm that organized this exciting event for all of us. Nurleli merupakan corporate and executive leadership coach, mentor coach, and advisor dengan 2.000 jam lebih coaching. She's also an author. Selamat malam, Master Coach Nurleli.
Malam.
Sebelum kita memulai acara, kita akan berfoto bersama dulu. Kepada Bapak dan Ibu, boleh on-cam sebentar. Kita akan kasih waktu, barangkali ada yang mau siap-siap dulu. Kepada operator, mohon bantuannya. Operator?
Iya, oke, terima kasih. Oke, siap-siap ya. 1, 2, 3.
Sekali lagi.
Boleh sekali lagi? Ya. 1, 2, 3. Oke, terima kasih.
Sip. Terima kasih. Oke, terima kasih semuanya. Tanpa basa-basi lagi, mari kita mulai sesi diskusi kali ini. Jika selama diskusi Mitra QR ada yang ingin bertanya, silahkan gunakan fitur obrolan di Zoom atau YouTube. Ketik pertanyaannya, kami akan menjawab saat sesi Q&A. Oke, untuk memandu jalannya diskusi sekaligus menggali insight dari acara kali ini, telah hadir bersama kita moderator yang luar biasa. Langsung saja mari kita sambut hangat Master Coach Nurleli Susutyo, PCC CNC MPM. Kepada Master Coach Nurleli, kami persilahkan.
Oke, terima kasih Rabita. Selamat malam semua mitra QR yang sudah hadir malam ini. Selamat malam and very warm welcome to everyone and also to Rob. Hi Rob, good to have you here again for the exciting discussion, I believe. Okay,
Thank you for the warm welcome, Nurleli. Very happy to be here.
Okay, good. So we will have a very exciting discussion, I believe. Okay, tonight we are tackling a critical question for every forward-thinking organization. Why succession plan fail? And more importantly, how AI can secure the leadership continuity. This topic is not only just timely, but it's fundamental to navigating the future and with what technology can offer to transform despite persistent challenge that we will continue facing in the now and in the future, I believe. So why this topic is important? I think I will set some context here a little bit, Rob, for your turn later to give us more insight about this topic. So I'm aware that in Asia Pacific HR Leaders Priorities in 2025, in top 5, succession management is in the top 5. But if you see, further in the top 5, what is in the top 5? It's about leaders and manager development. It's about strategic workforce planning, and it's about learning and development. And it's look like, I think it's all related to succession management somehow. So that's why we think the discussion about succession, eventually we will also discuss about learning, development, workforce planning, and so on. So while these are HR leaders' priority, let's see what is current situation regarding succession planning. Okay. I have a very interesting figure here. When we talk about succession, we talk about leadership continuity, right? What is the imperative of leadership continuity? Some studies shows how one is from Sigma here that I quote. There is significant competitive advantage that the organization gain if they are doing a good job in succession planning. They can outperform their peers up to 2.2 times in revenue and 1.5 times in profit. So effective succession planning is not just about compliance, but actively driving business success and shareholders' value. And in the opposite situation, study from Harvard Business Review here say that poorly managed the transition of CEO and C-suite can, potentially or estimated to destroy nearly 1 trillion on market value annually. So, despite that strong belief in the imperative of leadership continuity, in reality, only 14% organization that think they're doing a good job on succession planning, according to International Journal of Professional Business Review. And only 35% that has formal succession planning process. And interestingly, only 36% of the management or the organization find time for adequate discussion of the succession. So despite the important, but the effort and the system or the process is not really in place. So the question, why is that? Let's see the common practice on how succession planning done. Okay, and today's common succession process are often fragmented, we know that, and highly subjective, and frequently rely on just a year or two of performance rating or managers' personal impression to rank future leaders. We can see it happen everywhere. This just in what you call it, a gut feel approach tend to favor those who are already highly visible or familiar. This is not only where bias can creep in, but also resulting in many qualified internal candidates remain hidden gem within the organization. So this often leads to an over-reliance on external hires. If we can see here, 90% leadership roles were filled by external hire. While sometimes necessary, research from Harvard Business Review also indicates that external leadership hire are often paid more, yet they tend to perform worse. So we can see that 87% of organization facing the skill gaps here on the leadership roles, and therefore they have higher exit rate. Well, not net, they are very, very expensive. So not only the talent shortage create another costly problem, it's also create a talent war, whatever, another cost. Okay. Now, so what should be done? Let's ask our speaker here, Rob. The big question that we have here is that, is it even possible to address succession plan issues of non-biased process in the big scale, but not taking so much time of management? That's one first question. Second question, as a technology guy from GloCoach, how GloCoach technology can help organization in exercising better succession plan and process to guarantee success lah, or provide an excellent result, more accurate, more cheaper, faster, better. Okay. And third question is, what's specific areas of succession planning that AI can strongly address here? So we are very keen to hear your valuable insight. Goes to you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Nurleli, for setting that up. Those are some really interesting questions, and I hope that I will be able to provide some equally interesting answers over the course of the next, say, 30 or 40 minutes. First of all, let me apologize. I am dialing in today from a hotel room in Kuala Lumpur, so I apologize for the backlit camera view, and hopefully we'll have a stable internet and that won't be a problem. I hope you'll all be able to hear me okay and see what I am sharing. I'm going to go ahead and share some slides to get started. I assume, let me know, everybody can see my screen here, yes? Excellent. So, this is you. And if you're like me and everybody else around the planet now, you are using these large public language models on a daily basis for your daily work. So you're probably using OpenAI, ChatGPT, or Claude, or Grok, or Meta, or now even those four were created in the US, and now China has DeepSeek. And these tools are actually really quite powerful. You can ask any question you want to one of these LLMs, and it's going to give you a pretty sophisticated answer in return. If you're in the realm of HR and you're thinking about things like succession planning, you can ask it a question like, what behavioral interview questions can I ask to assess coachability and resilience for mid-level manager candidates? Let me just get a poll from the room here if you want to raise your hands or shout out. How many of you think that if you were to ask this question to ChatGPT, you would get a good answer? Anybody want to venture a guess on that? ChatGPT be able to answer this question for you? The short answer is yes. ChatGPT would probably give you a pretty good answer to this question if you asked it that. What about suggest a coaching strategy to prepare high potential talents for leadership roles in the next 12 to 18 months? Could ChatGPT give you a good answer to that question? Yes, indeed, ChatGPT could answer that question. What about draft a job description for a senior UX designer with an emphasis on collaboration and user research skills? And again, ChatGPT most certainly could give you a pretty good answer to these questions. And this is how many of us are using ChatGPT or other AI platforms on a daily basis. And indeed, it is saving us hours of work having to come up with this stuff ourselves. But the reason why it can actually answer those questions for you is that these LLMs have been trained on literally hundreds of billions of parameters. And that's tech speak for saying that Sam Altman at OpenAI basically had his computers read every piece of public information on the internet in order to train his large language model. That's the term for these AI models, to be able to answer questions like that. So somewhere on LinkedIn, somebody's posted job descriptions or interview questions. ChatGPT has learned from all of those, and that's why it can answer questions like that. But what I'm here to show you today is that you're actually, if that's how you're using it, you're actually missing the biggest potential that AI has to offer. So consider a different set of questions. Consider a question like this. Who is the best person on my team to replace my head of sales? What if you asked that question to ChatGPT? Do you think ChatGPT would give you a good answer to that question? Indeed, ChatGPT would not, because ChatGPT has no idea who's on your sales team or who your current head of sales is or what's required for success in that role. What about this? How well prepared is my team to execute our 2025 growth strategy? Again, ChatGPT cannot answer this question. It has no idea who your team is, what your growth strategy is, what industry you're in, or anything like that. It's not going to be able to give you a meaningful answer. Which skills are missing from my team that are required to navigate the global trade war? Again, if you're thinking about succession planning, trying to understand what skills you have available, what skills you need to bring onto the team, can ChatGPT answer this question? Again, the answer is no. Oddly, if you actually ask these questions, ChatGPT will give you an answer. I think it's one of the flaws of the current LLMs is that they rarely say, sorry, ma'am or sir, I don't know. They always give you some answer. So if you put it in there, you'll probably get something back, but it's not going to be an answer that's going to be very helpful for your succession planning. So why is that? The reason why these super powerful LLMs can't answer those questions that would really help you with strategic succession planning is that the information required to answer those questions is stored either in your head or the heads of your team, or it's on documents that are on your personal computers or computers that are part of your internal network. And all of this knowledge that might help you to answer one of those very specific succession planning questions has not been available to the LLMs, because rightfully so, your team, your IT department has put up a firewall, and your computer has lots of protection so that this personal information wasn't available when Sam Altman was training ChatGPT how to answer questions like this. So the LLM doesn't have that information to answer those questions. So how can we change that? How can we get to a different level? Because at this current level, there are some studies that show the way we're using these LLMs, we're only getting about 20% of the available capability, the power that these tools have to offer. So what I want to share with you that's going to start to answer some of those interesting and thought-provoking questions that Nurleli shared with us is a framework, a technology that's emerging that can actually set us in the direction where we can use AI for very strategic succession planning. And it's based on a framework called RAG. And no, I'm not talking about the rag that you use to wipe up the counter after breakfast in the morning. I'm talking about retrieval augmented generation. Now, you would be forgiven for not having heard of this phrase before. Typically, at this point in time, only techno geeks like myself are actually familiar with retrieval augmented generation. But I'm here to tell you that over the course of the next, say, 12 to 18 months, you're all going to start to hear more about this particular framework and how it interrelates with artificial intelligence. So what does RAG do that can help you get to a different level of capability with this AI? Well, the first thing RAG does is it takes the knowledge that you have and it puts it in what's called a vector database. And again, I'm not going to geek out on you all here and explain the ins and outs of a vector database. I'm only going to say that it's a different way to store data than you're currently storing data on your laptop computer. And then RAG creates a framework where you can access that data. And with that framework, you can pose a question. The framework will restructure that question, pulling data from the vector database and sharing it with an LLM so that the LLM can now give you an intelligent answer based on your specific data and bring that answer back to you. And this can all be done in a way that is very secure and very safe, so your data is still not going out into the public internet. Again, I don't want to get too technical in this discussion, but for anybody who's interested, I could talk about how your data can be protected while at the same time being accessible to a RAG infrastructure. So with this type of infrastructure, you can now have very, very specific feedback and input from your AI, your LLM. You can ask it a question like, I have a budget for 2 workshops this year. Which topics will have the greatest impact on my team's performance? Create an outline for a 2-day workshop that will specifically address my team's current growth needs. Now, with a RAG infrastructure, the AI can give you a really good answer to this type of question. Or again, succession planning. Please tell me which 3 team members on my current team are best suited to replace my head of sales, and explain the strengths and weaknesses of each person for this role. With a RAG infrastructure, you can get a very good answer to this question. And you'd be forgiven for being a little bit doubtful at this point, but I'm actually going to show you, I'm going to demonstrate this live in a few minutes how this works. One more, after you've done your succession planning, as Nurleli pointed out, the failure to hire the right CEO can cost your company millions of dollars. If you have a tool that can help you do the right succession planning, then you want to do talent development. So imagine being able to talk to your AI and say, hey, please create a coaching strategy for Amir, my current head of sales. Be sure to make specific recommendations about the type of development activities, such as training, mentoring, and coaching, that would really help Amir get to the next level. And now with the RAG infrastructure, you can actually get there. And by doing so, by creating this RAG infrastructure, there are studies that are now showing that you can go from 20%, capturing 20% of the power of these LLMs, to capturing greater than 90% of the power of these LLMs. So this is where GloCoach comes into the conversation, because we've been working on building a RAG infrastructure for HR leaders. And I'm going to show you how, give you a glimpse of the future, basically, and show you what this would look like in practice. But before I do that, I do want to mention, I want to bring up the GloCoach leadership competency model. The reason I want to do this is because you'll see as I demonstrate the RAG architecture that we've built with two solutions, you're going to see this leadership model come up over and over again. So we've created a leadership model that consists of 32 competencies in these three pillars: developing yourself, developing relationships, and developing your business. And it's a very robust leadership model. There's a very clear definition for each one of the 32 competencies, plus a library of good behaviors and bad behaviors for each competency. It's based on many thousands of hours of coaching and research, and we'd be happy to share that, that literature with you if you're interested. But the reason I wanted to show that is because I'm going to demonstrate an AI tool that will collect data for you about your organization that you can use for succession planning and immediately put it into that vector database. And I'm going to do that by first demonstrating our observation-based assessment, and then I'm going to show you our AI-powered tool, the talent analytics tool, where you can actually ask the AI some of those very specific questions and get answers back. So let me first jump into the observation-based assessment. We believe, and there's a lot of studies that show, the best way to assess any talent in your team is through consultant-driven interviews, where you interview the talent and you interview the people who work with the talent to get a very clear picture of what that talent's strengths, blind spots, and ideal behaviors would be. So with our observation-based assessment, we interview the talent. And we want to understand what are the talent's current challenges and what they think their strengths are and what they think are their blind spots where they would like to grow. And the output of that interview is a document called the personal discovery. Then we want to interview the people who work with the talent. We always want to interview the talent's line manager. We call it the talent leader. But we also want to interview maybe one or two peers and one or two subordinates. Each of those is a one-on-one interview. And the output of that interview is a document called the Talent Builder Matrix. And once we've done all of these interviews, in this case, for this talent, we did 5 interviews, we would integrate all of that data into a single report called the integrated report that gives a very, very clear view of this talent's strengths, their blind spots, and what their ideal behaviors would look like. Now, to be perfectly transparent here, GloCoach did not invent the concept of a 360 interview, and we didn't even invent the concept of a consultant-driven 360 interview. You might be familiar with Korn Ferry, who sets the gold standard for this type of assessment. Korn Ferry can do this same assessment. They'll send a team of consultants to your office who will do these interviews. They might spend a day or two interviewing people, then they'll go back to the Korn Ferry headquarters, and 2 months later, they will send you a report like this one, the integrated report. It's a beautiful report, very powerful, very detailed, but it will take them about 2 months to put it together. And when they send you the report, they're also going to send you a bill for about $20,000 US. So while it is the gold standard for talent assessment, it's used very, very rarely because most companies just can't afford that type of consultant-driven interview. And what I want to demonstrate today is how, leveraging the power of AI, you can start to collect data about your team, again, that will be useful for succession planning and will immediately be available in that vector database for analysis. So what I'd like to do is introduce you all to Lance. Lance is the world's first AI-powered talent consultant. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Let me know when everybody can see the screen. Okay, I think my screen is visible there. If your HR wanted to deploy the observation-based assessment by Lance for your team, they would simply, the HR lead would simply identify who are the talents being assessed, just need to enter their name and their email, and then identify who are the sponsors that are also going to get interviewed and click go. This is all done from her account on our platform. Our platform does all the rest. It sends out all the emails, explains what people need to do. And basically, everybody just goes to the App Store and downloads the GloCoach app. Now, when you first log in, there is a quick start guide that's going to explain what you need to do. It's all pretty simple, point and click type stuff. Now, if you are a talent who is being assessed, your name will always appear at the top. So here you can see my HR wants to assess me. No doubt I have many blind spots that need to be pointed out for my future growth. But my HR, so my name is at the top, Rob Abinett, CEO. And I can do my interview with Lance whenever it's convenient for me. But my HR also says, hey, Rob, we need you to provide feedback for 4 of your team members that report to you: Ana de Armas, Toby Maguire, James Bond, and Lois Lane. So whenever it's convenient for me, whether it's a coffee break or on the subway on the way to the office or maybe after dinner, I just go ahead and I start that interview. I'm going to do James Bond. I'm going to provide my feedback on James Bond.
It's good to see you again, Rob. This interview will be similar to the one we had recently. We can begin straight away, or I can briefly remind you of the process and expectations. Would you like to jump in, or would you prefer I give you a brief overview first?
Hey, Lance. Yeah, good to see you again. I know this is some GloCoach assessment thing. I don't quite remember. Can you please update me on what we're supposed to be doing here today?
Of course, Rob. The interview typically takes around 20 to 30 minutes, and we suggest completing it in one go for a smooth experience. However, you can pause and continue at a later time if necessary. Let's begin by discussing your relationship with James. How long have you known him, and in what capacities have you worked together?
So James Bond joined my team about 7 months ago as my head of sales, and in that capacity, he's reporting directly to me. We communicate on a daily basis, and I'd say we have a pretty good working relationship so far.
Thank you for sharing that, Rob. It sounds like you've established a solid working relationship with James over the past 7 months. Now, when thinking of James, what are the first 3 words that come to your mind?
Oh, good question. So I would say that James is strategic, he's diligent, and he's good at influencing people.
Thanks for sharing strategic, diligent, and influential. Those qualities paint a picture of someone who's thoughtful, hardworking, and persuasive. That's helpful context as we dive deeper into our conversation. Let's explore some specific strengths of James. Could you elaborate on a particular strength you've observed in his work?
Well, I'd say that he is a very good strategic thinker.
I appreciate your response. Could you elaborate on James's strategic thinking a bit more? How does he demonstrate this strength in his role as head of sales?
Oh, okay. You really want to go deep, Lance. Sure. So when James joined the team, he took stock of our current situation and he came up with a strategic plan for us to meet our target this year. And then he made sure that everybody in the team knew what their role in that plan was and set their KPIs to get us off on the right track.
That's a comprehensive approach. It seems James effectively aligns the team's efforts with strategic objectives, ensuring everyone knows their role and key performance indicators. How has his strategic thinking impacted the team's performance and the business outcomes since he implemented this plan?
Well, I would say that since he implemented the plan, the team is coming into the office in the morning with much more direction and purpose. They know what they need to do each day. They're not spinning their wheels, and I'm already starting to see that our sales pipeline is getting a little bit deeper as a result of this focus.
That's great to hear. James's strategic thinking clearly brings purpose and direction to the team, which is already reflecting in a deeper sales pipeline. Is there another strength of James as a leader that you'd like to highlight?
There is, Lance, but I didn't get a chance to have dinner tonight. I'm wondering if you could help me find a hamburger shop near my hotel.
I'm here to focus on our interview about James today. Can you share another strength of his that stands out to you?
Actually, come to think of it, I don't really like James. He's kind of a jerk. He drinks too much, and I don't really want to do this stupid interview.
I'm sorry to hear that you feel this way, Rob. It's important to maintain a respectful and professional tone during this interview. If you're not willing to continue, we can pause here. Please let me know how you'd like to proceed.
Actually, now that you mention it, I'm in the middle of delivering an online webinar, so it's not really a convenient time for me. Can we pick up this call sometime tomorrow?
Absolutely, Rob. We can reschedule for another time. Feel free to reach out when you're ready to continue. Thank you for your time, and I'll be here when you're available.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause that now. I can save my progress and come back tomorrow and finish my interview on James. I'm going to discard it because I always use James as my test case. Now, had I finished that interview, take another 20 minutes, what Lance is going to do is he's immediately going to produce that talent builder matrix for me based on my perceptions of James. And I did finish my interview about Anna. So here you can see where he has created a talent builder matrix based on my conversation about Anna. So he identifies what I think are Anna's strengths, competencies. He summarizes what I said were the behaviors and the business outcomes, and he cleans it all up. So he gets rid of all the ums and ahs and the tangents that people go on when they have a conversation or questions about a hamburger shop. He filters all that out and boils it down to just the important information, but still keeps it in my words. And then you'll see that he links it here to that leadership competency model. So you can see this particular behavior that I described, he said, oh, that means that you think she's good at demonstrating initiative. And so he identified two competencies that I think she's good at, embracing change and demonstrating initiative. And remember, it's not important for me to be familiar with the competency model. Lance is just going to have this conversation and ask questions. And then based on what I say, it's his job to link it to a competency model. And this starts to get to one of the first questions that Nurleli asked about doing this on a large scale and eliminating bias. So to do this on a large scale, you need a standardized competency model that you can apply across a large group of people. And you also need a tool like Lance that allows you to deliver that assessment across a wide group of people that doesn't introduce additional biases. So in this particular case, you can see when I started to express some bias towards James, saying I don't like him and he drinks too much or whatever, Lance immediately brought the level of the conversation down. He got me back on track. He let me know that it's important to be professional. And he's very, very good at doing this consistently across a large group of people so that you end up with a relatively unbiased data set. Now, you can see how Lance can produce this beautiful talent builder matrix with the descriptions of the behaviors, how it impacts business outcomes and the examples, not just for Anna's strengths, but her growth areas as well as her ideal behaviors. So looking into the future. And once Lance has completed that interview for me, and then he has completed it with all of Anna's other sponsors, he's going to go ahead and produce Anna's integrated report. So here I have the actual report for Anna. This is a real report. It's real data. Obviously, we've changed the names, but Anna had 4 sponsors: Liam, Felix, Ethan, and Ava. So he did 5 interviews. And immediately, once Lance produces this report, you start to see where Anna has strengths. So 2 out of her 4 sponsors indicated that driving results is a strength, where 3 out of the 4 sponsors indicated that EQ was her blind spot. So among the 32 competencies, we're starting to immediately get a feeling for where Anna is strong and where she needs to grow. But then Lance will actually create summaries that you don't need a certified consultant to interpret for you. You can read it yourself. It's another benefit of this. So Lance here summarizes Anna's strength competencies, and the blue text is where Lance is pulling out quotations that people said when he interviewed them to give context to why driving results is one of Anna's strengths. So this is really, it's like a fingerprint accuracy of somebody's strengths or their blind spots, if we look down here at their growth competencies, as opposed to survey-based assessments like DISC or MBTI or Hogan or one of those. DISC fits everybody into one of 4 colors. You're a blue person and she's a green person and I'm a yellow person. This is much more like a fingerprint of Anna. What is she really good at? What behaviors does she really need to improve? And then he does a summary of that interview he did with Anna, her personal discovery, where he seeks to understand what are her current challenges and where she thinks she needs to grow. What's interesting about this case and why I like to use this as a case study is Anna actually said that she wants to improve her EQ. Now, Lance is smart and he picks up on that and he says, hey, 3 out of 4 of Anna's sponsors said that EQ is where she needs to grow. And she also notices that. So that shows that Anna has good self-awareness. She's probably going to be a good candidate for coaching, or if you're thinking of her being part of a succession plan, you know that she has the capacity to grow where she has blind spots. So then Lance is going to make a recommendation. This is where Lance can actually do highly customized growth plans. Lance can say, based on this data, we think that Anna needs to improve her EQ and her ability to lead teams. And then he outlines why, if she improves her EQ, that would have an impact on her business results. But he actually goes one step further and he focuses in on specific behaviors, because EQ is kind of a broad, it's a broad thing. It's not, you can't just tell somebody that they need to improve their EQ. What Lance says is, to improve your EQ, Anna needs to develop the ability to include active listening, to respond professionally, and share alternate points of view constructively. So he really focuses in on the specific behaviors that tie back to the competency model and also tie back to Anna's job performance, what kind of results she's getting on the job. And then there's an area here for her to, or for Anna's line manager to rate her before and after a developmental engagement on her current level of competency and then her level of competency after, say, coaching, so we can see how much she's improved. And the important part about all this is not only is it really kind of a revolutionary way to assess talent, but all of this data is getting stored in that vector database. So that if I stop sharing this and I go to another window here, I'm going to share the talent analytics view. In this view, what I'm looking at now are 34 talents who are part of my team, the GloCoach team, who have gone through the observation-based assessment with Lance. So Lance, these 34 talents collectively had 102 sponsors, and Lance did a total of 136 interviews. And Lance did this in less than 2 weeks. So all of these can you imagine trying to coordinate your team to do 136 interviews in 2 weeks? No way that that's going to happen if you're using live consultants to do all those interviews. But with everybody doing it on the app, you can get this done very quickly. And then I get a dashboard here that gives me a quick overview of my team. So I see I got 34 talents. They collectively have 237 strength behaviors, 163 growth behaviors. Here in the left column, I see what are their top 5 strength competencies. And here I see what are their top 5 blind spot competencies. What's interesting about this is these 34 talents on my team, most of them are my engineers in India, Jaipur, India. And as an engineer myself, I'll be the first to admit that communication typically isn't our strength. We like building things, playing with our computers. So you'll notice that communicating with credibility is the #1 blind spot for this particular group on my team. And over here, I see what are the most commonly cited competencies, either as a strength or a blind spot. This tells me which competencies are important to my team. And then down here, the AI is giving me a so what summary on the implications. It's reading the data and it's giving me a quick summary about what it means that these are my team's strengths or blind spots. Now, with this tool, I can drill down deeper. I can look at my team's top, how the team's strengths are split across all 32 competencies. I have my top 10, my middle third, my bottom third. And again, I have all that AI analysis here. I can look at their growth competencies again. I got the top 10, communication being the #1, the middle third, the bottom third. And then we have this really interesting tool called the T-map. Now, what the T-map does is it's plotting all of my team members. Each one of these dots represents somebody on my team, and it's plotting them against a set of competencies. In this particular case, I'm looking at my team's top 10 strength competencies, which are these competencies here. And the way the T-map works is for each talent, if you have a lot of strengths that align with these 10 competencies, then you go high up in the vertical axis. And if you have a lot of blind spots that align with these competencies, you go far to the right on the horizontal axis. So another way of looking at that is top left good, bottom right not so good. So I can look at a particular set of competencies and I can see who are my rock stars for those competencies. So for example, Emily. Emily is definitely one of our rock stars. I can click in on this and I can see her OBA report that Lance produced. I can see where her strengths are. I can see where her blind spots are. I can see the summaries. And I can see if I agree with her being a rock star with respect to these particular competencies. Or I can look at my top 10 blind spots. Now, this is where most of my team has blind spots, which is why you see a lot of dots over to the right. But again, top left is good. What's interesting about this particular graph as it relates to succession planning is if you want to find out who on your team are your rare gems, these are talents that have strengths where most of your team has blind spots. You look at the top left of this T-map. And for these people, again, actually, Emily shows in the top left again, don't let these people go. If you're doing a downsizing and you need to lay off people, you don't want to lay off the people on the top left of this T-map because then you would be losing competencies that everybody else has blind spots in. Or imagine you had a role that is a more senior role that involves the ability to develop your business. It involves things like thinking strategically, thinking enterprise-wide, business agility, and you wanted to find out which members of your team are going to be best suited for that role. You could go down here to the developing your business T-map, and that's going to plot everybody against those competencies. So here I'm looking at the 34 people. Again, these are mostly my engineers. So I'm not surprised that I don't have many people that are in the top left corner. But if you did this across a wide group of people, you'd see who are the people that are best suited for things like strategic thinking, business agility, etc., to see who are the right people to go into that succession plan for that more senior role. So and then you could do a custom T-map. You could say, I've got a VP of logistics in Jakarta who's retiring. I need to fill that role. These are the competencies that are important for success in that role. They don't need to develop talent. Whatever you choose, whatever competencies you think are important for that role, you click OK. You go back here, and it's going to replot those team members to see who is going to be a rock star with that particular set of competencies. So using this tool, you get a clear view of where your team has gaps that you need to start thinking about, whether or not you can hire from within or you need to pull talent in from the outside. And you can start slicing your team from different angles. And this is extremely helpful for succession planning. But perhaps the coolest part is when we go down to the live Lance feature here. And with this feature, what you can do is you can ask questions to Lance, just like you would ask to ChatGPT, and Lance will give you an answer, a meaningful answer. Further, here you can see I've uploaded some files here. You can upload anything you want. I've uploaded a job description for my head of sales. And what I'm going to do here, I pre-typed a question here so you don't have to suffer through my fat fingers trying to type out on the keyboard. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this question here. Please tell me which 3 team members on my current team are best suited to replace GloCoach as head of sales, and explain the strengths and weaknesses of each person for this role. Now, what the AI is, I'm going to click go here. What the AI is doing, the AI is reading all 136 interviews that he did across my team. Plus, he's reading that job description, head of sales. And he's going to give me an analysis here of who are the best 3 candidates to replace my head of sales and why. And here you can see that he's identified Stella, Andre, and UA, and for each one he said this is Stella's strengths, and this is where this is where she's going to struggle. This is a question you could never ask ChatGPT and get a meaningful answer. But because we've created this RAG infrastructure where all of this data that you collect through the OBA is being put into that vector database, and now we have this framework where you can ask these questions, you can actually get very meaningful answers here. Just to show you the breadth and depth here, remember my team's top blind spot is communicating with credibility, at least for these 34 people. So now I know that that's really helpful. I know that for my budget for workshops this year, I need to focus on communication. So I'm going to type in here, create an outline for a 2-day workshop on communicating with credibility that specifically addresses my team's current growth needs. Each day should start at 9 a.m., finish by 9:30 with a 90-minute lunch break beginning at noon. Be sure to include at least 2 breakout sessions. And yes, I spelled include wrong. So I'm going to go ahead here and put this question to Lance. And again, Lance is reading the data from 136 interviews, and he's producing this highly customized workshop, 2-day workshop, exactly as I asked for. And now you, of course, could go hire somebody off the street to come in and do these workshops. The challenge is going to be whoever you bring in to do this workshop is going to give you their generic workshop on communication skills that they've given for the last 10 customers. It's not going to be specifically designed to really touch the needs of your team. So this is another example of how using this RAG architecture, you're able to access your own internal data and have the AI analyze it to give you much, much better information that you can use for strategic decisions, and in particular, succession planning. And then when you're ready, you just indicate what you want to be included. If you want to include this in a report, you go down here to export, and the platform is going to create a beautiful report for you with all this data. So for example, if the CEO came to you and said, look, I need a succession plan for these 3 roles, you could go in here, you could use this tool to figure out who are the right people to succeed in those roles, what competencies they need, what their gaps are, what their strengths are. You could come up with a development plan for each one of them, and you simply export that report, and you can share that with your CEO with all that data available at your fingertips. So With that, I'm just going to pause now. I've been talking now for at least half an hour, I think. I know it's a lot of information, but I hope that I've at least started to answer some of those thought-provoking questions that Nurleli asked at the start about how we can leverage AI to have a scalable solution for succession planning that takes the bias out and gives you really meaningful input about how you can design teams that are going to make your organization resilient in the future. Let me pause there and just, I guess, turn it back to you, Nurleli, or over to the audience if anybody has any questions.
Okay. Wow. Honestly, I listened to this couple of times. Still, I learned something new. So this is very exciting topic because it feels very relatable for us on daily problem that we face, especially for HR people here. So, well, I have some notes, but I'll wait for that later because we don't have all night on this webinar. So I'd like to give a chance to the audience to have discussion with you, Rob, especially. But let me ask the host first. Is there anything that we need to make a note or something, Bita, here?
No, everything is okay. Okay,
Hey,
sebelum mas, okay, yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I was just going to point out, Nurleli, I saw somebody
Yes.
from our audience was suggesting that you chat with Lance in Bahasa Indonesian.
Melayu.
Or you could do Bahasa Mahai. Lance now speaks both Indonesian and Malayu. I normally do that as part of my pitch, but since I do that, it works better when I'm face to face. I think for you to do that, you would have to open Lance on your phone and you can hold it near
Oh, okay.
the microphone, and then people could hear if you want to chat with Lance in Bahasa Indonesian.
Okay, so should I try that? Okay, I can share my screen. Let me try that. You want me to try that, Rob?
Yeah, if you're able to share your mobile phone
Okay.
on this
Sure,
on
sure,
your
sure.
laptop and then
Oh,
share, yeah.
okay. Let me share it. Okay. Hold on a second. You see?
Yep.
Okay. Let me go to Lance, GloCoach. I open the GloCoach. Here
It's
I
yeah, go.
can change the language from English. I can choose Bahasa here and save it. And I can start with either, I haven't done this with my self assessment, or I can do for Lois Land. So let me try this. Can you hear? Can you hear the sound of
Halo,
Lance?
Nurleli.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay, good.
Ya,
Hello, Lance.
baik Nurleli. Mari kita mulai wawancaranya.
Okay.
Bagus, kita mulai. Saat tentu, mari kita mulai. Bisa. Baiklah, mari kita mulai. Ketika
So why is this? Did I do something wrong? It's like
I think it's an internet it might
Oh,
not be a good internet connection.
oh, okay. So basically, we try this from another people, Rob. We can do that. I don't know what is the problem with the connection. Maybe it's not. Maybe you can try another time.
Yeah, yeah, you can try it one more time, see if it works. It also sometimes,
Okay.
depending on the connection between the phone and the computer, it can cause this type of issue.
Okay, the connection from my phone to the computer. Okay, let me try again. Lois Lane.
Hai Nurleli, bagaimana kabarnya hari ini?
Baik, Lance.
Senang mendengarnya Nurleli. Senang bisa berbicara dengan... Baiklah, saya akan mulai wawancara ini. Baik Nurleli, ketika Anda memikirkan Lloyd,
Yeah, it sounds like it's an internet issue.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Let's just finish this because, well, basically we can do that. That's what I like to say. Okay. Okay. Rob, sorry, I cannot exercise further.
No, no worries. So maybe we can see if anybody in the audience has any questions.
Yeah. So, okay, I think kita buka aja forumnya for the question. I see some question already on the chat box. I read it for you. So, quick question on security and data protection. Can you elaborate on the technical side? This is a question from Made Swastika.
Indeed, I can. And give me one moment here, and I'm going to share a diagram. Just give me a second to bring something up. Okay, so the way this architecture is built, um, um, we've created our own architecture here where everything is enclosed in a triple level security firewall. GloCoach is ISO 9000 certified. We're also GDPR compliant. But basically, when you're doing your interviews with Lance, that all that is going through our firewall through a personal information encryptor. And then that data is stored on our local database encrypted. So there's no access to anybody's personal information. And also, the version, Lance is built on OpenAI's architecture, but we're running our own proprietary version of Lance. So when you do these conversations, you're not speaking with the public version of ChatGPT. You're speaking with the GloCoach version, which is also behind our own secure firewall. So everything we do is highly, highly secure. And you can imagine, we're serving global multinationals like Siemens, like Nestle, Nike. We've got about 150 corporate customers now. And these customers are very, very particular about the security of their data. So when we built this architecture, we had to build something that was really, really robust in protecting people's personal information and their intellectual property.
Oke. Menjawab nggak Pak atau Ibu Made? I hope it's answered your question. Okay, another question from Rob, from Jose. He said, "Hi Rob, Lance is interesting. Can we use Lance for other discussion, not necessarily succession planning? For example, discuss on staff who are smart but have some attitudes and what to do about it."
Yes, we have several versions of Lance that will be coming out over the course of the next few quarters. The next version of Lance, so this is Lance for the observation-based assessment. Typically, organizations will use the OBA with talents maybe once a year or twice per year to get a sense about what the talent's strengths are and blind spots are. They'll also use it before putting them into some sort of development program like a coaching program. That's the OBA. The next one that's coming out is the talent touch base. This will be Lance being used for performance reviews on a periodic basis. So every line manager, either on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis or maybe semi-annually, can have a conversation with Lance about what his direct reports achievements were towards the agreed upon goals since the last interview. Lance will conduct an interview and do a summary, give the line manager an opportunity to give some, feedback about what percentage of the KPI the person accomplished. Lance will also interview the talent and then also put those two reports together so that then the talent and the line manager can have a meeting with really objective data about how well the talent performed in the preceding period of time. This solves a huge headache. All organizations want their line managers to do performance reviews. All line managers hate doing performance reviews because you have to meet, you have to have this uncomfortable conversation, you have to take notes, you have to write it down. It's like pulling teeth to get your line managers to actually do regular performance interviews. Lance makes it fun and easy. That's the next version that's coming up. Then we have another version that's going to be Lance Habits. What Lance is going to do is he will look at the data we've collected from your OBA and your talent touch bases, and Lance will suggest to you activities that you can do to start to build the new behaviors you need to close the gaps on those particular competencies. So that's going to be the habits tool. All of this will be available from the GloCoach app. So in short, yes, we are building on the IP that we've created with Lance. I mean, one of the things that GloCoach does really well is we understand how to build this RAG architecture, and we also understand how to use these LLMs to do this sort of conversational HR-related missions. So we're going to expand that a little bit over the course of the next few quarters.
Okay, thank you, Rob. I think it's clear what you say. And another question from Bapak Edi Wibowo. Hi, Rob. If the AI is programmed to only listen to positive aspects and disregard negative ones with the justification of being more professional, how do we address situation where the negative aspect mentioned genuinely impact a person work or performance? Speaking of bias, then there is a continue. Speaking of bias, doesn't the positive and negative aspect being informed depend on the person describing that positive and negative aspect?
So to answer the first question, to answer the first question, it's a misperception so Lance is absolutely required to collect. We don't call it negative feedback, but to collect your observations about the talent's growth areas. I think what you might have misunderstood was if the person being interviewed becomes disrespectful or is having a bad temper, Lance wants to keep things professional. So he'll push you back to being professional and take the emotion out of it. But Lance will not let you finish the interview without giving at least one growth area. And what we've observed is because we've applied Lance to a wide range of talents and sponsors, from junior to very senior. And oftentimes, what you see when you interview a junior person, especially if you're interviewing the junior person about their boss, junior people are very reluctant to give negative feedback. They only want to say their boss, does a great job. But Lance will push you and not let you get away without giving at least some constructive feedback. And then on the other question, so it's the way we've built Lance and the way we've constructed we've done the prompt engineering is that the person being interviewed does not have to need to have any awareness of the leadership competency model. The only thing that's required is the person who's being interviewed must have some exposure to the talent, to see how they perform on a daily basis, either as a line manager, a peer, or a subordinate, or somewhere in the workspace. And Lance is going to get you to describe the behaviors that you observe and their impact on business outcomes. Again, it's not required that you understand the competency model. Now, one question we get is, what happens if the sponsor is really biased and only wants to say negative things or wants to lie even. It's possible. And I've even had the question people ask me, hey, can Lance tell if you're lying? And the answer to that question is no. Even if you do a polygraph at the police, even those aren't very reliable. So no, Lance cannot tell if you're lying. However, the way that we address this is we recommend that you have at least five, well, we say a minimum three, ideally 5 to 7 sponsors get interviewed. So that way, if there is one sponsor who is being untruthful or is really, really biased, it's going to get balanced out by the other people. And remember, Lance is collecting descriptions of behaviors to give context to the competency, whether it's a strength or a blind spot. Those descriptions are really powerful, and you can see if they're accurate or not. And then so that's one of the ways by having multiple sponsors do this, and also Lance's ability to sort of get people to take the emotion out of the conversation, that we get feedback that is generally not biased and gives you a very well-rounded view of each talent's strengths and growth areas.
Okay. Pak Edi, is that answer your question? If not, you can maybe raise hand and continue the question. Kalau enggak, kita lanjut ke penanya berikutnya, Pak. Yes, thank you, Pak Edi. Okay, next question is from Pak Made Swastika lagi. He said that Danish company over here on anything that Lance generated, who owns the data? And if I decided to stop using Lance, what is the guarantee of data deletion?
So GloCoach owns the data, and if you want to stop using Lance, we would completely scrub our platform of all of the, if you wanted us to do this, of all of the reports and data that were collected. We don't have a problem with that. We have many thousands and thousands of data sets. But also keep in mind that the data we collect is all encrypted. So it is very secure. But that's the short answer to your question is GloCoach owns the data, and we will expunge our system of your data if requested.
Okay. Good. Ada lagi kah pertanyaan? Okay, I think there is no more question, but I have one if you allow me. Because I get the question from people. So can we use Lance for recruitment?
That is another version of Lance that we're developing. In its current form, you can use Lance for recruitment. In fact, some customers, like even currently Nestle is doing this in Latin America for recruitment, where Lance can interview the incoming talent. That's no problem. And then you can require the talent to provide sponsors to do an interview, or Lance can also interview the incoming line manager to get a sense about what requirements are necessary. However, we are also working on another version of Lance that will do BEI, behavioral event interviews, if you're familiar with those. It's a type of interview that's commonly used in a recruitment case where you ask the talent to describe certain situations and you evaluate their proficiency against, we could do it against all 32 competencies. So in addition to the talent Dutch pace for performance review, for the OBA, for competency assessment, we're also going to have a Lance BEI to do behavioral event interviews specifically for recruitment purposes.
Wow. So it's still a lot to expect from GloCoach coming in. Okay. Ada lagi pertanyaan? Audience, kalau ada pertanyaan, please just raise your hand atau boleh juga lewat chat box. Nggak ada, Pak Agung atau siapa? Ada pertanyaan kah? Oke, kalau nggak mungkin nggak ada ya? Rihan, nggak ada pertanyaan? Oke.
Belum?
I have another question. Oh, Bita ada?
Enggak, belum.
Okay, go
Sementara
ahead.
belum.
Oh, great question. So,
Yeah.
what is the role of the human coach? So, actually, GloCoach is core, I shouldn't say a core business. Our flagship solution is coaching. We do coaching better than anybody else out there. In fact, that's where we got started. That's why our name is GloCoach. We have a platform with more than 400 live human coaches. And my own personal opinion is that AI is not currently capable to replace a good coach. So remember, from my perspective, the role of a good coach is to understand where it is, what your gaps are, and get inside your head and help you to shift your thinking so that you can shift your behavior. And shifting behavior is what delivers different results. From my perspective, that's what a good coach should do. Now, I use AI on a daily basis. I use AI all day long, and I'm in the business of building AI. And I will be the first to tell you, I don't think AI can yet get inside my head and shift my thinking the way a good coach can. So at GloCoach, we still use flesh and blood human coaches, and we use the AI to do the pre-coach assessment and also to support along the coaching journey with things like SMART goals and engagement activities. So our whole solution is AI powered, but we keep humans at the center of it, especially in the coaching part of the journey.
Well, interesting. Okay, more question here from Taranjit. Taranjit is from Kuala Lumpur. By using the BEI approach, there is no need to have feedback providers. Is that a question, Taranjit? Yeah, I think that's a question.
I know,
Rob,
really.
yes. Is that a
Yes,
question?
yes, it
Okay.
is. So I actually am very intrigued, Robert, by using a BEI approach, a behavioral event interview approach. Uh, is there then a need to have feedback providers the way we have an observation-based approach there? Or can I have this directly with the individual for 40 minutes or thereabouts? Just a thought.
Yeah. So the traditional BEI approach is indeed you're doing an interview with a trained consultant over, 45 to an hour. And the benefit of it is you don't need other people to be part of that process. This is very important at the recruitment stage because oftentimes when you're recruiting a candidate, you don't have access to the other people to interview them. If somebody's still in their current job and you're interviewing them to come into your company, you can't exactly go interview their current boss. That's not going to go over very well.
Yep.
So the BEI is designed specifically for that purpose. So they do two slightly different things. The BEI interview will give us a view of the talent's relative strength across all 32 competencies. But it's probably not going to go super deep into any one of them. On the other hand, the observation-based assessment tells me which three competencies are the talent's strengths and which three competencies are the ones that the talent needs to focus on now in order
Yeah.
to get to the next level of their career. So they do different things.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, good. Sarifa, I think it's comment or a question, I don't know, but maybe Rob, you can respond to it. Looks like Lance is a genius consultant. Is it a correct statement?
Well, I guess it depends on how you define genius. Lance is certainly a very talented fellow, and he currently speaks, I think, 9 languages fluently, and by August he'll be speaking something like 14 languages fluently, and he can read and write in all those languages too. So I guess you would say if you ever met a consultant who speaks 14 languages fluently, you'd say that that consultant is a genius. So maybe by that metric alone, Lance qualifies as a genius.
Hi, Rob.
Correct.
Hi, Rob. This is
Hello.
Can you,
Hello, go ahead.
yeah,
Yes,
okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much for interpreting what I mentioned as genius. And it's like at the cognitive level, using the text. I mean, Lance is interpreting at the talent side, but as you are responding to my remark, I realize that Lance can't as yet pick up the nuances. So it's like this is like an insinuation or a sarcastic way of saying it. So what do you say about that? The level of
Um,
capability.
I, Yeah, I think you would be very surprised at how capable Lance is at picking up nuances. Um, I'll give you an example of that. I recently spoke at the International Leadership and Coaching Conference in KL a few weeks ago, and this was a live presentation, and I did a live show with Lance in English. And then I went down into the audience and I switched to Bahasa Malay and I asked somebody from the audience to interview Lance. And uh, I have to admit, I have no idea what they were saying, but the conversation went on for about 10 or 12 minutes. And the audience was oohing and ahhing the whole way through. And afterwards, I asked why was the audience so stunned? And the feedback was Lance was giving really, really insightful comments and responses based on what the person was saying in Bahasa Melayu, not even English. So I think you might be surprised at Lance's current level of sophistication and the way the AI technology is advancing. That's only going to get better, and it's probably going to get better relatively quickly.
Yeah, I can imagine with more data coming in, hearing it more, so he's going to pick up the nuances pretty fast. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharifah. Okay, we still have 2 minutes. So I think this question that addressed to me, but I want you to give us insight, Rob, about the concern if people start using organizations start using GloCoach or Lunch, how many jobs will be erased? And
Uh,
what is your insight to keep the what you call it, the level of security from these people in HR to start embracing these tools
hmm.
without afraid of, losing job?
A great question and a question that's on everybody's mind. So, a few answers to that. First of all, our core philosophy at GloCoach is that AI is not going to replace people, but people who use AI are definitely going to replace people who don't. So, I would say that your chance of losing your job is much greater if you don't embrace this technology than if you do embrace this technology, for sure. That's the first answer. The second answer is I know there's a lot of people talking about how AI is going to replace jobs, but it's also going to create new opportunities that we can't even see yet. So I'm not convinced that people are going to lose their jobs as long as they're embracing the technology. And I can give an example on that. So before we created Lance, GloCoach actually has a team of about 20 consultants that do these interviews. So we've been offering the observation-based assessment for probably 4, maybe even 5 years now. And the challenge has always been it's a great assessment, but because we have to pay the consultants, it's expensive. So companies don't use it at scale. But they always said, we really like your assessment. If it were only cheaper, we would use it much more. And then, Lance came along. So let me ask a question. Do you think that the workload for my 20 consultants has gone up or down since we launched Lance?
Up.
Who thinks up? Yes. Now, you would be forgiven for saying, well, surely the workload for your consultants, your human consultants, has gone down because now Lance is doing all the interviews. That's not the case. First of all, people are applying Lance to the wider audience, more junior people. and they still want a human to do the interviews for the senior people, which were the only people that could afford it in the first place. So Lance isn't taking their job, he's actually augmenting it. But secondly, part of the solution, and we didn't even see this, we started doing all these OBAs by Lance, and customers were saying, we love this report, but we would be willing to pay one of your live consultants to interpret the report for us, even though it's not necessary, to give us more, to walk us through it. So now one of the most common solutions that we offer is you do your OBAs with Lance, Lance does the report, but then you pay one of our consultants to do a 30-minute debrief. So now our consultants are getting lots of work doing these debriefings for all these reports that Lance producing that they never would have had that opportunity before. And even I didn't see that coming. So that's just another example of how, if we embrace the technology, we shouldn't be so sure that we're all going to lose our job. It's going to create new opportunities that we can't even think or see yet. So I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm an optimist. By definition, I guess an entrepreneur has to be an optimist.
Good. So that's a question in a lot of people's minds, I believe. All right. So we are about to conclude our discussion. I think thank you for all the participants in discussion and thought contribution here. And especially thank you to Rob for a very, very valuable insight about how we can revolutionize our talent management, or especially in succession planning, to make it more successful and also affordable, faster, cheaper, better. So I think that's very, 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 very good discussion for me. I still learning a lot about this. Before we close, maybe you have a closing remark, Rob, for us here, so we can remember.
Gosh.
Important thing.
I would say the world is a very volatile place now on many fronts. There are trade wars, there are hot wars, and this advent of AI is moving so fast. It's really going to disrupt everything. And our only choice as a community, we can't stop it. We must embrace it and work with it and benefit from it and use it to create a brighter future. And I believe if we go in with the right intentions, we can work together to make that happen.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. So by this, we kasih lagi nih ke host ya forumnya. We finish our discussion and hopefully we learn a lot. All of the audience, thank you again, Rob. Thank you for everybody that attend and then for your contribution.
Thank you all. Thank you, Naleli and team. I really enjoyed it. Hope you all did too.
My pleasure. Our pleasure, Rob. Okay, thank you to Master Coach Tailor yang telah memandu jalannya diskusi yang luar biasa tadi. Sebelum kita tutup acara malam ini, kita akan mengumumkan pemenang reward untuk free GloCoach trial dan buku I'm in Charge. Ditujukan kepada satu, Bapak atau Ibu Mada Swastika, yang kedua Bapak Edi Wibowo, dan yang ketiga Ibu Syarifah. Selamat kepada pemenang, nanti akan dihubungi oleh admin QR untuk keperluan selanjutnya. Bapak Ibu sekalian, as special privilege for you, kami membuka beberapa priority slots untuk sesi trial GloCoach. Honestly, antusiasmenya is overwhelming. Antrian pendaftar sudah panjang, ini adalah kesempatan untuk mendapatkan akses prioritas. Plan your exclusive spot now before it's fully booked. Penawaran ini hanya berlaku sampai hari Sabtu 14 Juni, jadi jangan sampai ketinggalan untuk informasi yang lebih lanjut. Bapak Ibu bisa menghubungi admin QR pada nomor yang tertera di slide. Oke. Akhirnya kita di penghujung acara. Semoga diskusi malam ini has been insightful and help us to take action for a better prepare ourselves, organization, and society to be a better future. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Mr. Rob Abernat, Master Coach Nurleli Susutio, and attendees for contributing the success of QR Talk. Your active participation and engagement have made tonight both meaningful and impactful. Demikianlah acara QR Talk malam ini. Ikuti terus QR Talk selanjutnya bersama narasumber-narasumber hebat dan topik menarik lainnya, karena QR Talk ada di setiap bulannya. Untuk info terkait detail pelatihan dan informasi berharga lain di seputar coaching, leadership, self-development, dan corporate excellence dapat dilihat pada website QR di www.qrcoach.id atau platform social media QR lainnya. Selamat malam. I'm Dion.
Thank you, thank you, thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you,
Where
Rob.
are you, Rob? Where are you now?
I'm here.
No, I mean you are in Shanghai or?
Oh, no, I'm in KL.
Oh, you're in KL. All right.
Yeah.
Good luck with whatever plan you have in KL. Taranjit,
Thank
thank
you.
you for joining, Taranjit. Thank you, Rob.
Thank
I'm
you.
really looking forward for Monday with you. It's very
Yep.
important.
Good opportunity.
Yes, yes, very important. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Telat closingnya.
Iya, aku nungguin.
Iya.
Ya, Bu, tadi aku mau nge-share tapi Ibu ngobrol, jadi aku takutnya
Gak
ketutupan
apa-apa.
suaranya.
Oh, nggak
Maaf,
apa-apa,
Gak
itu
apa-apa.
gabung.
Itu kan kamu udah
Oke,
punya SOP-nya. Itu kan
oke,
aku yang
oke.
ngerusak.
Baik, ya, Bu.
Karena kosong, karena sepi kan gak enak. Aku awkward kan, diem-dieman gitu. Nggak ada apa-apa, makanya aku ngomong. Gitu. Oke, thank you ya,
Yeah.
everybody. Uh, I don't know, what do you think about this session? I believe a lot to improve. Aku jadi ngelihat bahwa our meeting dengan Pertamina mau nggak mau nih harus mereka yang conduct karena
Yeah.
I don't can do as good as Rob, of course, karena kita juga baru tahu, nggak ngerti seperti dia yang bikin dan semuanya itu ya. But it is really important for the potential client seperti Pertamina untuk kita dapetin support the best gitu. Jadi please Rihan secure everything dengan Yue, kasih tahu siapa aja yang akan hadir dan dia